travel all the way over here. Yeah.
And then the other one goes to
Has it been a problem at all?
It's challenging.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
You make it happen. That's where all our friends are. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
What's best for them.
Yes, exactly.
We have a birthday.
Bring it back. Okay, let's start our context conversation with talking about some of the accomplishments that we're proud of. Again, I think it's important before we think about where we're going. And so we're going to spend a little time talking on a few accomplishments. From
Us getting key city manager.
The work of Counselor McHugh to help with the 100-year centennial celebration.
Senior Center. Community and Senior Center. Everybody knows about seniors.
For context there, just so you know, there was a conflict there that got resolved.
I think that the city and council has done a really good job on community engagement. And, you know, with the mayor's leadership, we formed the ad hoc committee for Grabhorn. And that was a very, very positive outcome. But in the years prior, I just didn't see the engagement that we have. And now you can disagree or agree with the engagement we get from the community, but I think it's positive and it's good and it's healthy. I'm very proud of that.
Follow up on that one too. I'd also add in the social media engagement. Been a huge accomplishment and push forward.
This is really hard for me because, it's the staff that has boots on the ground actually doing the work. We set the intention and so there's so many projects that have been completed or have been worked on, but maybe, we didn't, this is, and there's like 5 things we could list that Dave's department. So it's very tricky. I would just, in general, the accomplishments are that staff is meeting goals that are set by council.
Are these global accomplishments or just for clarification?
Okay. Right. So for me, just in general, that staff takes the goals that are set in place. Frequently we're given updates on the progress or the closure of these goals. When they come in front of us, they make sure to remind us that this was something that we had asked them to do. But they really kind of sort of stick to the plan that we've all set in place and agreed to.
Sarah, just for the record and for clarity purposes, we're acknowledging everybody that had anything to do with these activities as their accomplishments too.
These are just city accomplishments or accomplishments within the city? Some are a little bit city. Some of the accomplishments are like PCC opened up. I mean, and that was, that got contentious for a while and our former city manager, Mike Sykes, and I actually went to a board meeting. They pulled it off the consent agenda so we could speak to vote on it. And we knew before Senator Johnson knew that they had approved it. But it's a huge accomplishment. I mean, not only for the city, but for the future.
Acquisition of funds? Acquisition of funds or granted funds or,
Oh, yeah, huge.
Millions of dollars in
Millions of
grant
dollars.
For
dollars.
infrastructure,
Yeah.
actually our water and sewer infrastructure. I don't know who to thank for that.
I think the sidewalk program has been
Mhm.
huge accomplishment. I mean, just seeing that in process.
tax dollars at work.
Site replacement.
Sorry, is it okay if we're popcorning out or?
Yes, the street light replacement. They actually putting, Dave, are they actually putting new streetlights or just changing the bulbs on the ones that are out? Okay.
I think, saving the candle.
Yeah.
Maintenance thing. And maintenance.
And over the last year, Scappoose is open for business.
Usable and maintained recreational spaces. Was very big when there were other things people couldn't do, but outside to safe during the pandemic.
Chapman Landing, another one. CHAP,
Strong relationships with other special districts and groups in the county and city. Maintained by our staff partners, great.
Did you clarify them as all being strong? I agree with you. I would just say establishing,
would say-
maintaining.
I would say, in general, maybe the word is assertive. Like I feel like on our end, we are making a concerted effort to reach out to these people. Assertive, we are asserting ourselves into these relationships.
we're trying to build those relationships.
That was a major goal on our last year's goal setting. Huge one.
So I'm fine if people feel comfortable crossing off the word strong.
We didn't go offline during any of it, have we? Yeah.
We're close to still function in other manner.
I just want to
That's a pretty good list.
acknowledge that there's several subtopics under a lot of these too. So use your imagination on all the different things that this actually reaches out to, that this list reaches out to. No, I'm just saying that these are kind of, like the main topics, but there's several subcategories that are under
layers.
all of these too. So I just want to make clear that I would assume that a lot of us are thinking about all the subtopics that, are encompassed by these two. Yeah, I just don't want anybody to think that we're forgetting about things that were really important. We're probably just considering them under, these main topics.
I just want, building off of what Dave just said. To me, it's being able to capture this, right? It's hard for us to look back over the last 365 days, coming up with this. And we had a conversation just a minute ago about how rough it's been, right? And I get it. Look at what we've been able to do. And with all of the different variables that have taken place from not having a city manager, right? Having an interim city manager to now having a solidified city manager. Did that during COVID. We also did it during the transition of our police chief. This to me is, we should, I don't want to say pat ourselves on the back. I'm not a big person to, make myself feel good about things. But as much of a conversation we just had about troubles in Scappoose, and then also looking at what we're actually still accomplishing, I feel very confident that work is being completed through staff taking our vision and actually putting it to work. And so I'm very happy to see this. And I thank you for acknowledging it and, bringing it to our attention and putting it in one space that we can all rally around, hopefully. Thanks.
I would say responsiveness by positive responses or active responses by staff to citizen inquiries. I know that they've spent a lot of time over the last year, as Peter had mentioned, on the phone with people in the community, just addressing concerns, answering questions on any special topics, that they had, and that the staff took the time to do that.
Share some gratitude.
No, I want to talk about what you're talking about right now. Transition.
I've done this with other groups this year, and I do think it's
Just kind of in compliment of what Brandon had said too, is these are all, as I look at these in my mind, these are all very transactional type activities, and they're all very quantifiable, meaning that we can point to like specific things to where we know and quantify that these things actually did occur. And with that, what comes to mind is that really we have to have the team approach to be able to do these things. So we have council, who in my mind is very transactional. We get things done as well. But also we wouldn't be able to do it without staff being equally as transactional and supportive of our visions too. So really what I see here is just a really huge team approach, because if you look at the hierarchy of things too, I mean, it really funnels down in a lot of ways, not always. I mean, a lot of these things too come, directly from staff as well. But it really kind of, in my mind, establishes a common theme here for the city of Scappoose.
Well, if Susan would leave the room, I'd like to compliment her on her really outstanding work, pulling together so many loose ends, and the job. I have no idea. Job description must just go on and on and on, because she just does tremendous work, and I appreciate what she does. And I know the rest of the council does too.
I double you, Pete. Yeah, Susan.
don't retire. You do a tremendous job for this community. And I know you do more than just the work that you do in this role for our community. And I can't say thank you enough. Dave, you took a department in Public Works and have done a 180 in the last, I mean, you've been here 3-4 years now, right? 5 now. Okay. Time gets away. But you walked into a situation that looked a lot different than what it does today. And with your leadership, you are putting Scappoose in a positive trajectory. Thank you so much. Alex, thank you for being and this actually, I'm going to put you two together. Thank you to Alex and Megan for being a strong role model for young women in the city of Scappoose. My daughters, our daughters, whatever it may be. I believe having your voices involved in all of these conversations is extremely valuable. Thank you for putting up with me. All right. So I think that that's super valuable. Joel, thank you for pushing me in a way to make me think outside of my own thoughts. I find it extremely valuable, as we were talking earlier about having constructive criticisms towards each other, right? Or the subject, right? It's not towards each other, to the subject. I appreciate that you bring that dialogue into our decision-making process, because I do find it extremely valuable. So thank you for that. Ultimately, to everyone in this room that's serving, right? Serving our community in whatever role that we bring, I appreciate it, because I truly in my heart do feel as though Scappoose is going in a positive direction. From when I moved here, I've been a member of the county for over 35 plus years now. Scappoose is a shining light in all of Columbia County. And it's because of our dedication, our passion, and our commitment to this place that we call home. So thank you.
Yeah, I think it is worthwhile to and necessary and needed to single out folks, at least that are in this room. Susan, you are truly extraordinary. I mean, I just can't say enough good about you. You're just truly extraordinary. Alex, you have the resilience of few that I can think of. You know, I really, you are just a resilient person that I look up to. That is just really something I feel so positive about you. Peter, we may not agree on everything, but you know, I know your heart's in the right place. And whether it's right or wrong, but I know your heart's in the right place. Dave, you know, when I saw you out mowing at 100 degrees out for the grab horn out on the Buxton property for the centennial event, I'm thinking, man, that's the kind of guy that we just love here in Scappoose, and the fact that you're out there leading the charge is not, you know, do as I say, it's not do as I, you know, you lead, and you are the exemplary leader that everyone looks up to, and so I can't say enough positive about you. Isaac, same thing. You know, you think out of the box. You're not constrained. And you know, look at solutions and you find solutions. And the same thing with Centennial. I'm just using that. I'm looking at the 100-year wood there. You know, without your help, that would have never happened. So those are the kinds of things that, you know, I feel so positive about, and that makes me feel really proud of our staff. Anyway, and it goes on and on.
I actually will kind of go around the room because I do have a lot of things to say. So Dave, you know, I've seen so much happen in the city in the last couple of years that I mean, I've been a part of this community for my entire life. So it's the improvements have been just all over the place, and it's so nice to see, so nice to hear from the community. And so thank you very much. Alex, you've done pretty much everything in this city, so you're a big part of this, of you know, the growth and success of this city. You put your heart into everything, and I can't say I have no words for how proud I am of you as our city manager. So thank you. Peter, your honesty has always been great. I enjoy every time that you speak up because your experience has been phenomenal for us. So I appreciate that. To council and the mayor, you guys are dedicated to your positions. You know, it takes a lot to be in this position, and it's not it's kind of a thankless job in a lot of ways because you're doing it on your own time, you're doing it because you want to, and you're doing it for the community. So I appreciate every single one of you. Isaac, your work on the social media side, and I think I've said this a million times, but I just want to continue to thank you. You know, that's a big lacking area, and you have done a phenomenal job. You jumped right into this role, and I'm excited to see what you can continue to bring to this community. And of course, the last but not the least, Susan, you keep me on track, and you do so much for the city, and it's a thankless job. I don't think anybody really knows what you do. You are the key glue to this city. So
I'd just like to comment on Huel, the work he does. He is a, I would call it unsung hero. He doesn't draw attention to himself, but always gets the job done. He always does what he does well, and I just really appreciate what he does. And also want to say, our mayor, job of running meetings. You do a very, very good job of running meetings and very patient with our community guests. I think that's important when they make comments that they feel like they're, even if we don't like what they say, that their comments are well received and respected. I think that's critical because we don't want to turn in this community into a them against us kind of situation, which could happen easily. And last but is Kathleen, because I come in here and she's always so friendly. And it's always working, you know. You know, she's just right there at her desk and knows the grindstone and keeps moving forward. And I don't know much more than that, but we appreciate her.
Yes.
Oh, okay. You want to go last? Just general comment to all staff in the city, no matter what the department. I love their eagerness that they have for their work and where they want to see us go. So I love that they're bringing us suggestions and ideas, and they're never just settled with the status quo, and they're pushing themselves and pushing us to be better and think bigger. And to everyone who is an elected official in this room, you're still here and you're still doing it, and it's not easy work, but thank you for being so passionate.
All right. I think we can start by just looking at that list. And I believe most of those things, beyond the things that were out of our control, the city manager, police chief, were all goals that we had. And the importance of having this list of goals and focusing on it is so important. But, you know, I mean, I think that first thanks, obviously, is to our current city manager for focusing on those goals and getting them done. And not only that, I mean, the acquisition of those funds for city to be able to do those, that's going to save our ratepayers a ton of money. Rates we won't have to raise. Dave, well, you haven't finished all the projects yet. You said you haven't done it in 48 hours. I'm just having gone from, and this, a lot of this comes from the fact that I've been here since 1999, when we didn't have a lot of great things. We were a city with as basic as services as basic. We had Heritage Park as a park that was really in bad shape, and the skate park had just been completed. At that point, not realizing that the cement work was done poorly, and that's why it fell apart. But we went from not having public works director to having one, and it's night and day change in focus and your knowledge and work and leadership has been fantastic. You know, again, Alex overseeing it all and working collaboratively with staff. You know, she's Mitch doesn't know everything, but she talks to the experts. Information. Susan, thank you for everything you do. And I know that you've probably got more time on your hand now that we've transferred the responsibility of contacting me, probably like 20 hours a week more. Over to Isaac. But Susan's always been one of the rocks of the staff that have been there through it all. And, it's greatly appreciated the work she does. Then Isaac coming in strong, the social media stuff is fantastic. Kathleen, although, the only thing she wants from me is to sign checks.
Which I'm oddly doing more than you these days.
It took me 15 years, but I figured it out. She's great. Our community development staff is, top-notch professionals that know their business inside and out. I trust them with the information they provide us. You don't always have to agree with the information, but that's why we get to have these discussions, and we're the ones that set the policy and everything. But once we've set that policy, that they go in and implement it, it's fantastic. Water sewer supervisors work hard. I mean, the road crews, the parks crews. I think that, if we leave anyone out, it's wrong. Because we have a great staff, and I think very envious. And we're starting a new chapter in several top positions. We're starting a new chapter with the new chief of police, where we've brought back an officer that left. We've got officers coming on where, where that department is being kind of reborn. And then we're getting a new finance director soon. So, there are going to be personnel changes, but it's giving Alex the chance to really show her skill on these areas. So it's really exciting to see. And to council, those accomplishments wouldn't have been done without you coming together, setting those goals, and staying focused on moving them forward. And it's okay to disagree. Sometimes disagreement gives you new information that you might not have had before. I like to say it's like data. The data changes and it's given to you, and you reject that data because you've set in stone on this area. You're not looking at the information correctly, and you're blinded by being able to accept the information. That's why the Grabhorn Park, it was all about the road. And we saw that, and we compromised and said, okay, well, we understand the community's needs or the neighbors' needs, and we're moving forward in that direction. I think it would be more to not thank the community for giving us the opportunity to do this job. And, because they are the ones that have elected us to represent them. And I think the toughest thing is people understand that you voted for them to represent you, not for you to dictate every little thing they do. And if you ever want to know how bad of a person you are, run for office. Someone will tell you. And I do have to enforce the team agreement right now because it's right here on number 9. It says Avian water available to one council member will be made available to all council members
Oh my.
by that council member.
Brings his own.
I know. I'm just kidding
Sorry.
at that time.
Stoned you out.
Yeah. Refrain.
But I've been through the struggles. That's why I tell you that when I say that this wasn't that bad, I've been through third worst Pete's ever seen. And I was there meeting with Pete early on when they fired the firm. And
lunch.
yeah, we had lunch. I think it was the first time we met at that lunch.
What?
Yeah. And he's what you expect from an attorney, lots of words, and but he's smart and he's well versed in municipal law, and we're lucky to have him to give that kind of guidance on that side of the table because he's been there. He's been through worse Damascus. Guarantee you, Damascus is either 2 or 1. But yeah, it's your work on the council is, what sets the stage for everything to happen. And the staff's work is the accomplishments and the hard work that gets done, but we set the stage. So thank you. Thank you to everyone.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, real quick, I just want to also acknowledge the law enforcement officers that have stayed with our current department and have allowed our community to continue to be safe. Thank you.
That's okay. Flip it. The opportunity is the amount of undeveloped park space that we have from Crabhorn, Vista, the Cat Head, Chapman Landing. These are huge opportunity to really redefine our park system. Challenge is obviously resources to accomplish the development of those spaces. Sorry to steal your thunder, Joel. Yeah.
Sorry. Opportunity is putting ARPA funds to work in a way that supplement needs in the community. Can I give you more than one? An opportunity would be to educate public on use of funds, not ARPA funds, but just funds in general that we have, fuel tax, and educating them on how they're being put into action or used for them. A slim staff, overworked.
So the challenge that I give is also going to be an opportunity, and the challenge is it's just kind of I think a common theme with all of these really, but I think the challenge that we're still going to have at least for some time and is rebuilding our police department. I think that's not going to be an easy task. I think it is going to be a challenge. Is it doable? Yeah, it is. But I feel like it's going to be a challenge in kind of changing the narrative of how our specific police department is looked at within the county, but it's also an opportunity to become one of the best, if not the best, within the county as well.
I let you have it.
In terms of opportunities, I'm gonna look a little broader, length of time than a year. I think we are at a point in our development history, if we act wisely and pursue a good course, that we can become a almost a recreational incubator here in Scappoose. With a kind of a regional approach, and then I trust Alex will continue her relationships with organizations that will help that. But he really can become a national and at least a regional recreational center. And anything we can do, we aren't going to get that accomplished this year, but it's something we can certainly put the ducks in or start lining the ducks up. In terms of challenges, the unknown. We're in to use Josh's term, we truly are at an inflection point, not just in Oregon or in Scappoose, but across the world. Things are going to be different when we come out of COVID. We don't know what the economy is going to look like. We've got incredible challenges with the environmental changes that are coming down the pipe. Our atmosphere is changing so rapidly that we don't know what that's going to develop for us. And our AI and robots. So basically the high water and robots are coming, and we know they're going to be here, and that's going to be a challenge. Probably longer term than shorter term, but it's going to be a significant challenge.
I've got two. So one of the opportunities I think we have going forward is with our 50-year visioning, 50-year plan, and how we see the future of our city. The challenge there is really finding the solutions to traffic and housing and all those pieces that will kind of go into that 50-year vision, and having that public support for it as well. And then the next one that I have really kind of follows up, and it has to do with outreach. I think we have an opportunity to really reach out to our public and grow kind of that communication, and really be able to have that opportunity to really show them what we're doing, what the city's doing. And I think that obviously the challenges on that is the period that we're in, and having that such a big public distrust, and being able to build that back.
Can I clarify your distrust? I think in my perception is that in general, we'll have a distrust for government in general.
That's what I'm speaking
Okay.
upon, is just the general,
Yeah.
the nationwide,
Sure.
Public distrust of government has really spread and grown this atmosphere that, unfortunately is affecting all government. All
And
forms
we've
of
seen it
government.
here. People assume certain things are happening or not. Okay. I want to make sure.
Opportunity is for us to create and market Scappooses image or brand. Our challenge is establishing new relationships with newly elected officials. We're looking through our synergies in our relationships, potentially with Salem representatives. That we have a new district.
Opportunity, make the senior center a real and visible part of our community. Say to it, yeah, but you guys get what I mean. Visible. And under challenges, they're both livability issues. The first one is uh, to avoid more trains through Scappoose. And the second one is to identify a piece of property on the east side for a park. Well, this east side park would be a good title.
The opportunities, I mean, that infrastructure, the challenges. So, there's gonna need to be on it. Infrastructure. Yeah, so that 14 million that we've got, it has to be 5 years and 15 years. A wall that might take a lot of time and not. All of that stuff. So, it's so it might be, but it has that up. Thought around how that.
50-year land use look is going to be a tremendous lift.
Never know. What's uncertain is actions of the legislature, the state or federal government.
One of my challenges was slim staff and uncertainty is if a department head leaves or, any staff retires or leaves to something else. And again, then we're kind of left.
So the impacts of inflation upon the cost of city, everything, this is the one area where the caps on increases in taxes can have a huge impact on the city. If inflation outstrips that 3% allowed increase in tax rate, this is actually going to actually cause harm. Whereas during recessions where people still pay their property taxes but don't have the income, so the state's not getting as much money, but we've been fine. This is a different situation. Inflation will cost the city a lot. We'll have staff members whose raises won't be fitting into that inflation.
I was going to say also, I mean, on top of that as well, just the overall economic status and what's going to happen in the future, the unknown. Who knows if the market's, housing market's going to crash or if, what's going to happen with the jobs and where it's at. I mean, all that can change in a flash.
I would like the second overall economics or. I think that there's always uncertain though. We've gotten this far, but I think there's something on the horizon personally. Anyway.
You know, and then broader horizon thing is, the political stability. You know, we're at a time in the world that, I can't recall in my 72 years. Of course, I can't recall my first two, but, I can't recall my last 70. That we are at a time, that's unparalleled in my 70 years. The, you look at the global situation, and the geopolitics that's taking place, and then our own situation in our own country, where there's doubts over election results and whether you can accept the election results or whatever. That's scary, and so that is a huge uncertainty. And granted, it's probably not going to affect us at the local level, but it's going to trickle down big time if there's some kind of cataclysmic event.
I would say supply chain with products, and then availability of services. I know that some of our departments haven't been able to move forward because they just don't have what they need, or there's not people available to do the work.
Expectations change while you already got the ground broke. About the big shake, that, I mean, uncertainty wise, Dave, you talk about aged infrastructure, right? And I think about us being able to provide some type of response services after an incident like that. No one knows when that's supposed to happen, but we're post shake time, so.
So if COVID was a dress rehearsal for that, the state
Mm.
is not in a position.
No.
I mean,
Are you ready to talk about what this? Share here. I'm gonna take a look at the current goals. There's I think there's 7, and just kind of refresh on those. Then consider this context that we just came up with. And then I want the council to think about where are the areas of focus? And I'll ask each of where should we, there's some ways. Then we'll look at the current goals and ideas for what are then based on your focus areas, what that. Then shift into reviewing the. If it doesn't, sometimes I feel like I explain. They're like, yeah. And focus it on areas.
If there are things that we would like on this goal setting, but perhaps doesn't specifically have something on that list, it's okay.
Yeah.
That's just the context.
Yeah, this
They're
is-
two separate. Yep,
These are, because
the
sometimes
scene.
we get into the exercise and people forget
sure.
bigger pictures. There may be something that they. Are we? So,
We're a little behind.
no, which is okay. We spent more time on the agreement stuff, which I noticed. Yeah, I try to always design the agendas with some flexibility.
I would point out too that, so he's out of town, but he's joining remotely, that's Sean. So if there's any questions or discussions that, I'm interested in having specifically with him, if we could, try to do that sooner or rather than later so that he can weigh in, provide feedback, and then hop off. He is on vacation.
Thank you, Sean, for being here.
Yeah, good morning, Mayor and councilors. Thanks for having me.
Morning, chief.
So,
And I
yeah,
apologize
so,
that
so
I'm not
Sean, I
there.
don't know if there's anything you just want to start off with and share, just about your thoughts. I know that obviously in your packets, there are, what we did was staff sat down with the goals. You'll see a red line version so you can kind of see what we moved around, but these were just kind of our thoughts and ideas of maybe how it could look moving forward, obviously with the expectation that you all would weigh in and we would refine it further. But Sean, I don't know if there's anything specific you want to mention about any goals that are specific to the police department.
Yeah, I apologize.
Can't hear you.
Alex, to clarify, with the chief's main focus areas be under goal 6 with Keep Scappoose, one of the safest communities in Oregon.
Uh-oh. I think.
Yeah, I'm showing that as goal 3, but yes, that not,
Can everyone hear me
Oh.
now?
oh, yes, we can now.
Okay. Why is it double?
Yes, sorry, so whichever number it is.
Yeah, can everyone hear me now?
The red line version.
Ah, there we go. Thank you. Team effort. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, I think
Can
what you might have
everyone
been
hear me?
looking at was that in goal 6, that's the ongoing goals. So there's goals from each category in that because we wanted to differentiate between the projects that had a limited duration and those that we had
Perfect.
the understanding as staff that we would just continue indefinitely unless you removed it.
Got it.
Sorry, that's the distinction there between goal 6 and goal 3. But yes, goal 3 is kind of the ongoing projects with an end date, so to speak.
Thank you for that.
And can everyone hear me? Sorry, my
Yes.
phone disconnected. Okay. I just wanted to talk about as the city grows, the police department needs to grow too. There's some old FBI stats. They haven't done anything since 2017. And if you break down those stats, I could share them with everyone. It varies, but the Pacific Northwest, specifically around Oregon, a good average is about 1.5 officers per 1,000. So that would put us right now with the new census of like 8,100 or 8,000, right at 12 officers. So one of the goals I've been working with is just trying to find out funding, get funding to get to 12 officers. I think that's very important. With 12 officers, that will give us potentially, depending on shifts, a possibility to work 2 officers 24 hours a day, which would be really good. If we wanted to maybe explore doing an SRO out of those 12 or a detective, we still would be able to do 24-hour coverage. It just wouldn't have 2 towards the end of the night. And honestly, a lot of times the calls right there, there's not a lot of calls. So we would definitely look at schedules. But that's one thing that I think is very important. The other one is we have some aging cars, and I think we have 6 2014 Dodge Chargers, and they're going to start costing us a lot of money. Over this last 2 years, several cars have cost us quite a bit of money just to keep them up and going. So exploring different opportunities for vehicles, I don't know, possibly looking at some ARPA funds to get some new cars, and then continue the funding where we do a new car every 2 years would be good, just so we can get a rotation of cars. So we're not having 6 cars that are, 8 years old and then need to repair or replaced. And then obviously community outreach is always important. I think we need to continue that. Scat Police does a really good job. The police department does a really good job with their events. So those are some things that I'd really want to continue on. And I'm all, if you guys have questions.
Yeah, Sean, this is Tyler. I just have a clarifying question. When you say 12 officers, are you including the sergeants, or what titles or classifications are you including in that?
Yeah, sorry. 12 sworn officers. So that would be 8 patrol officers, 2 sergeants, a lieutenant, and a chief.
Okay, so, okay, thank you. So I did some just playing around with different staffing concepts myself here. And I just want to see if this sounds right to you, and if it doesn't sound right to you, what the variations would be that you come up with. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Okay, great. So what I came up with just as conceptual is basically that there would need to be 3 officers and a sergeant assigned to 3 different shifts, right? I understand you guys are on 410. So you would have, for example, shift 1, shift 2, shift 3, which would allow for the 24-hour coverage 24/7. What I saw was basically that you would need 9 officers. So again, 3 per, I don't want to say 3 per shift, that's misleading, but 3 per, if you want to call it a team or something. And then 3 sergeants. So that would be a total of 12, including the sergeants. But you're also, from what I understand from what you just said, you're including the lieutenant and chief, which to me, I would include, based on the FBI staffing numbers that are out there, it is 1.5. There's, for the Pacific Northwest, there's some data out there that says that the staffing numbers are more around 3.5 nationwide for communities under, I think it's 10,000 population. And I'm guessing that's just because the management side has to do more administrative functions. And so that kind of takes them out of the realm of being counted for patrol or response to calls types of situations. So sorry, I'm kind of losing focus of my question here, but so what I saw basically was 3 officers and a sergeant with 3 different teams totaling 12. Does that match with what you said, or what do you see?
I think from the data, that is it's always sworn personnel. So I'll just go back to Oregon City. Like, we have 47, but that includes the chief, captains, and sergeants. And however you put those into a patrol or wherever you divvy those up, that's kind of up to individual departments. So for Scappoose, if you wanted to be at 1.5, which is the average, that would be 12. That would be chief, lieutenant, sergeant. So you could work a different, depending on collective bargaining, you could work some different shifts. It could be 12s, you could work 10s, you could work 8s. With 8 patrol officers and 2 sergeants, you could work 12s and have 24-hour coverage with 2 officers, or two people working at a time on the shifts. At times you would have overlaps potentially, but I don't want to get into all the schedules because there's so many different variation of schedules. I just think getting to and trying to maintain at least 1.5 is good. And then you could put your resources where you need to. So if at some point you decide you don't need 2 officers working from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m., you can maybe work 10s, and then you could put someone in detectives or an SRO. If the school wanted to contribute money, we could always add that position. So then maybe we can get up to 13 later on, but that's going to be up to the school district and whether they can find those funds and want to use those funds for that officer. So I'll try to dive into all the different variations, but from what I've seen, it's chief all the way down to patrol officer is how they get the 1.5. And you're right, there is some agencies that have upwards of 3.5 to 4, which would be awesome. But I think those are agencies where they have maybe, 1,000 people and they have 2 or 3 cops. That way they can have coverage. So financially, it's just not, it would be impossible for SCAPOs to do and most agencies to do. So that's why I've been working with Jill and Alex trying to come up with funding. And you'll probably see something later on for funding to get to 12 officers. When I say 12, I mean 12 full-time sworn officers.
Not gonna be able to hear you unless you're.
You can use
Well, I just want to pause. How we moved.
Could you guys hear me?
Yeah, hold on, Sean. Sarah's explaining something, but she doesn't have a microphone.
So
Okay.
just kind of point of order as we move through the goal setting conversation, I want to make sure you guys have the information that you need to set the goals, but I also want to try to distinguish like what would come up in a budget conversation detail wise versus trying to stay at the policy level and out of the weeds.
Right.
Otherwise, we'll never get to the end of the day with a set of goals. So just try to keep that in mind. Like we can use a parking lot for questions for staff to be able to provide additional information as you guys get into the budget conversation, but we want to try to stay focused on at the policy level for today.
So keeping that in mind, can I just suggest that maybe we have a follow-up conversation about this topic later and so that council can see what it would look like with X number of officers and then the correlating budgets that would be needed for that. And then we can see if
Well,
we can
I'll just say right now within our existing budget or this next fiscal year that we're putting together, I can probably add 1 patrol officer to the department if we look at something like maybe using ARPA funds to buy police vehicles. If I have to buy the police vehicles with the existing budget, I probably can't add the officer. That's the existing budget, like just nuts and bolts right now on the ground. That's probably the best we can do given our current finances.
Unless other funding becomes available through, say,
And again, that's using ARPA funds to buy, to make capital investments in the department. And then, me being able to basically reallocate, move funds around to hire someone. If that doesn't happen, I probably can't even hire another person.
So I just have one more comment here to make really quick, because I know we're out of time here. But when we had this conversation last goal setting, it was about a staffing needs analysis and maybe looking to see if there was outside funding that we needed to look for. So my comments are more in line with that to see if we do need to do a levy or something like that, if that's something that the city would ever want to look at doing. But that's where I was going with that. I understand our current constraints with our budget.
And I think there's different grants out there that we could always explore, like the COPS grants, if we wanted to explore the SRO. Those are usually very defined what we can get, so that's something else we could always explore. But my recommendation is trying to, look at the needs assessment and get us to where we need to be. So my recommendation is just on the policy side is try to get us to 1.5 and maintain that. If someone's speaking, I can't hear.
It's Sarah again telling us about the process. She's not using a microphone.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
You're fine.
All right.
So I guess for me personally, Sean's on vacation. So if anyone has direct questions for Sean, I'd love for them to ask them so that he can continue his vacation time.
And so yeah, any other comments or questions for Sean related to, you know, any of the goals we have listed or anything new you had that you wanted to run by him?
I think for me, the only thing would be maybe us looking at the possibility of some more outreach. I want to say kind of branding, social media outreach, specifically for the police department would be a good push forward of some sort. I don't know what we've already got on and how that ties to where we currently have our goals set, but
Sure. So we
Yeah,
have, I know that we have, you know, continuing community outreach under kind of our ongoing goals. And I've had some discussions with Isaac specifically about looking at the police department social media and how to either, you know, do we do that as a separate thing or do you fold it all into one for now and look at that later? And Sean, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that, but we have been talking about that quite a bit actually.
Yeah, and I think it's very important. I think, and whether we do it as, you know, one person in the city, a lot of times our social media can be 24 hours a day. So right now, currently, Timmy Sue does it. We can get her some more training if we want to do that. But looking at branding, absolutely, getting stuff out there, messages, press releases, super important. I agree.
This question is for Sean and Alex, and I guess just an understanding about our role. You know, we don't hire or fire the new chief. So I guess my expectation would just be that Alex and Sean, you know, I'm trusting that you're going to meet with, you know, the new chief and talk about some goals, where you've come and where we're going, and get from him his goals and kind of an action plan for what he's doing. But I take that as that's kind of our hands off. That's, you know, left to you guys to do it. It's not really our place to make.
So we have already
No,
had some conversations with him, you know, about the status of the department and where we're going. Sean, I don't know if you want to, elaborate on that.
No, absolutely. I've had conversations with the new chief, and he's very open. And my plan is to, you know, spend some time with him once he gets here to get him up to speed, let him know where we're going. That way he could tailor some of his missions and that kind of stuff around where the city is going and these goals. So absolutely.
Anything else for Sean?
Enjoy your vacation, Sean.
Okay, I'll have my
Pete
phone.
has-
If
Sorry,
you
one
guys
more.
have something that comes up, please give me a call. I'll have my phone with me.
Pete's got
I
something.
think there's one more
Oh,
question.
perfect.
John,
Perfect.
I just want to tell you, thank you for doing such a great job for us. We appreciate it. You took a difficult job and we were all kind of wondering what was going to happen and certainly feel a lot better about our police department now and the direction it's headed. So thanks for doing such a good job.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's an honor for me to be your guys' interim chief. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Sean. Have fun.
All right. Thank you. And I'll have my phone if you guys need something.
Right.
Thanks. Bye.
Ongoing program.
And Alex, yours are your recommendations through the staff are the ones with the strike throughs and
So what we did was we had the version with the strike throughs is just so where you could track the clean version
Got it,
changes were.
got it.
And so we kind of sat down and we did some rearranging. We removed some things, but some things like you'll see when we get there, like for instance, there was a lot of park projects and they seemed a little bit like there wasn't clear direction and focus on which ones to focus on. So, we said, hey, maybe we need to update the parks master plan, and then we folded all those under the master plan. So that's just, so there's the red line version and the clean version.
Got it.
And then I think with, with speaking with staff, with what's currently under goal 1, if you like these items and want to keep them, we had some questions about whether or not you wanted 1D revised resolution for the Betterment Fund to stay on, and then also marketing and branding. Isaac and we've been looking into that, and we just had a few questions about that too. I don't know if you want to expand on that. Right. And I think too, kind of the bigger question that comes to my mind with that one in particular is, are we talking about working on the city's brand? Are we talking about the community? Are we talking about branding us as, are we trying to base it off of OMIC? Are we trying to base it off of recreation? How big do you want to go? And then on top of that, since OMIC's not fully developed, since we don't have the 50-year vision process done, would we then automatically maybe be changing the brand based on the result of those things? Is it premature, or do you just want to go for it and we'll make adjustments as we go? These are just things that started coming up when we started talking to other cities about their process and how this went for them. So we've already kind of identified some funds to put into the budget for this, but we just realized as we sat down that suddenly just kind of becomes that can of worms, and you don't know how you want to approach it.
We dive in on that now?
Well, I mean,
Is that part of this?
I mean, so I guess, anything other needs to come off, and then is there any more direction on that?
So that's going to be your first question, Sarah, for every one of these sections. And then your second question, I would assume, is going to be like, does staff have any clarifying questions on, what are going to be your questions, just so we.
So can I ask Alex a question? The Betterment Fund, are we getting any traction with the other
No.
communities?
We haven't been able to get hardly anywhere with CSET when I've talked to them. Initially he said he wanted to have I think he said he wanted to have a workshop with the board. I don't know if you were there for that or not. I don't know if I'm not sure if that happened. And then finally, I don't know, 6-9 months later, it came back, well, maybe you need to come present to us. And so I'm not really there's all this lag time in between communication on the topic. I'm not really getting anywhere on it. So that's why I didn't know if you wanted us to continue pushing on it.
I think staff time wise, just let it be as it is right now and drop it off the list. I mean, that's my opinion. Doesn't mean it can't come up from another direction. I just, considering that we're doing a 50-year plan, we're doing all these staff heavy things.
Right.
It would be nice, but it shouldn't be a priority.
Do you mind finishing the process?
Yeah, and this is a good time. Start with. After we. I want.
By 3 focus areas, you mean taking these 5 and turning them into 3? No. Got it. So maybe 3 things under each goal is what you're saying. So Three things in general.
Kind of like the mayor's old,
Oh, the sticker thing. Got it, thanks.
Right, well, I will
You
actually
need my
back up.
postcard?
yes.
Okay, this is a good time.
Did elephants deliver to you?
Yes.
Wow.
Fishy.
Yeah. I like them.